He has worn almost every uniform a person can wear. A SEAL operator on war-torn battlefields, a doctor in the white coat of an emergency room, a pilot in a cockpit, an astronaut floating 8 months above the planet at 17,000 miles an hour. And yet the most powerful thing he says on that Harvard stage has nothing to do with any of it.
I've had the privilege of wearing different uniforms in my 42 years, from war-torn battlefields to emergency departments to cockpits and spacecrafts. Through it all, I've made many mistakes and learned many lessons.
Because somewhere between the firefights and the spacecraft, this son of immigrants learned a secret that broke the hero he always wanted to be and built a better one in its place. He admits, in front of thousands, that he once made a battlefield decision that took a life. He doesn't dodge it. He doesn't hide behind the investigation that cleared him. He owns it completely.
I made a decision that took a life. And I was wrong. And despite being cleared by an investigation that I operated within the rules of engagement, nothing will take away that my actions caused irreparable harm. I'm not the victim of this tragedy. I caused it. And it's a weight I rightfully deserve to carry for the rest of my life.
And then, just when you think you understand where this is going, he tells the room who his real superhero is and why he found out 1 month too late. This is not a victory lap. This is a confession, a lesson, and a goodbye, all in one breath. Let's get into it.
Thank you, Will, for the very kind introduction. President Garber, Provost Manning, distinguished speakers, honored guests, and most importantly, fellow alumni. Good afternoon. I am incredibly humbled to be here with you all today on Earth. To see old friends, reminisce about the past, and ponder our future. I've had the privilege of wearing different uniforms in my 42 years, from war-torn battlefields to emergency departments to cockpits and spacecrafts. Through it all, I've made many mistakes and learned many lessons. But before I begin, I have a confession. I'm a bit of a procrastinator. I'm sorry, Mom, that never went away. I finally sat down to write this after watching Conan O'Brien's recent commencement speech. Perhaps to help me get over my procrastination, my lovely wife urged me to watch it together. And between the laughs, his message of humility and impact over accolades really resonated with me. Dang it, Conan, you're so funny and wise. But his message was for the college graduates. We are alumni. We've got it figured out, right? The truth is, I certainly do not. And I struggled with what I could possibly offer such a diverse and accomplished audience, especially to our alumnus from the class of 1946, Mr. Dubé. Sir, you should be up here. I want to hear what you have to say. From one sailor to another, go Navy, and happy birthday. Just 6 months ago, I was wrapping up an 8-month mission aboard the International Space Station. The ISS is a triumph of human engineering, but perhaps more importantly, it's a triumph of international collaboration. Alliances across 15 countries have kept a sustained human presence in low Earth orbit for over 25 years. And this collaboration continues as we set our sights on the moon and then Mars. Let's give a round of applause to the engineers, scientists, and administrators that have kept that beacon of collaboration alive. Orbiting our planet at 17,000 miles per hour, I witnessed our planet's raw majesty. Epic storms, volcanic eruptions, vast oceans, and cities glowing like the constellation, all crowned by the vibrant auroras that paint the sky in colors beyond imagination. Yet through it all, I never saw distinct borders. I just saw a fragile, beautiful planet suspended in the darkness of our solar system. The overwhelming realization that everyone you have ever known and will ever love shares this same spaceship we call Earth. The overview effect is the coined term. Sometimes I'd look out from the space station cupola window and relax my focus on the mission, and instead ground my focus right here with my beautiful wife and our amazing 3 children, knowing that beneath the clouds, there were the very people that gave my life its gravity. But you don't have to go to space to understand the weight of our shared humanity. Long before I ever put on a spacesuit, it was here, in the halls of the hospital, wearing a white coat, or as an operator in the SEAL teams, that I learned the fundamental truth about service. True service isn't about the uniform you wear, the title you hold, the altitude you reach. It is simply about the person next to you. I am the son of immigrants who came to this great country to build a better life for their children. And while the fall of the Twin Towers during high school certainly called within me an action to serve, my calling to become a Navy SEAL was for embarrassingly simple reason. I wanted to be a superhero. A little tongue-in-cheek, but as a kid, I was infatuated with comic superheroes. I wanted to be like the incorruptible, self-reliant Batman fighting injustice. But in the extreme environments I've spent my life as an adult, I learned that the solo hero myth is dangerous. Whether you're relying on the Marine next to you in a firefight, the nurse during a code blue, or your crewmates in the vacuum of space, survival demands absolute trust in others. True strength is found in recognizing you cannot do this alone. Being a Navy SEAL was one of the greatest honors of my life, and it gave me the tools to forge my own path and the chance to serve, albeit in the only way I knew how at the time. But the price was high. There was trauma, pain, and a darkness that enveloped me, bearing my boyhood dreams of ever being a superhero for good. That brings me to the first lesson I'd like to share. Mistakes and tragedy can be the spark for new purpose. The battlefield is unforgiving. Decisions are made in split seconds with imperfect data. Operating with the information I had and with the absolute intention of protecting my unit, I made a decision that took a life. And I was wrong. And despite being cleared by an investigation that I operated within the rules of engagement, nothing will take away that my actions caused irreparable harm. I'm not the victim of this tragedy. I caused it. And it's a weight I rightfully deserve to carry for the rest of my life. Perhaps driven by guilt or a Sisyphean mission of atonement, I pivoted to medicine, hoping to uplift others, but I wasn't ready to heal anyone. In an effort to stay resilient, I had built layers of armor to protect myself, still trying to be that solo superhero. But you can't heal the vulnerable without being vulnerable yourself. The greatest gift this amazing institution, Harvard, has given me is not my medical education or the prestige that follows. It is that the people at Harvard helped pull me out of the darkness and into the light, and did it through something I had long considered a weakness: empathy. To my classmates and professors who took time to understand how I got in the dark hole I was in, and sometimes sit with me in it, thank you for being a part of my journey, and for extending grace I may not have always deserved. This taught me my second lesson: empathy and vulnerability are superpowers that can heal. True superpowers don't require us to put armor on. They require us to take our armor off. Remember the overview effect I talked about earlier, of how looking at our planet from space can give a macro view of our shared physical existence and that sense of unity it brings? Empathy is the micro view of that same phenomenon. And extending grace and understanding to others is how we recognize our shared emotional existence and begin to build human connection, which leads to bridges. Learning this forced me to re-examine other virtues I thought I had understood, like loyalty. In the SEAL teams, we use brotherhood as a metaphor of the unbreakable trust that every teammate will surrender their ego to prioritize the mission and team above their own lives. As a young SEAL, brotherhood meant absolute unconditional loyalty. Today, I realize that placing unconditional loyalty in humans, fallible by nature, is an impossible burden. Our unconditional allegiances are best reserved for our shared ideals, to moral and ethical values, to veritas, and if of faith, to God. Because whether we are navigating the vastness of space, setting our sights to the moon or Mars, or facing the uncertainties of tomorrow right here at home, it ultimately comes down to treating each other with respect and kindness. It is precisely during these times, hard times, that our character matters most. No matter what new technology comes our way or how much AI takes over, there is one thing that it will never be able to replicate: integrity, humility, trust. These aren't just lessons I want my own children to live and learn. These are lessons I am still actively trying to live out. They are our moral compass, our North Star. As I said, you don't need to wear a uniform, carry a gun into battle, save a life, or blast off into space to serve or understand our shared humanity. Service shows itself in the quiet, unseen acts of kindness and everyday grace. If you ask me today who my superhero is, I'd say my mom. She faced her hardships in life, business, and health with a courage, strength, and faith in God that rivals the toughest warriors I have ever known. Despite having many reasons to be cold to a world that was sometimes unkind to her, she remained compassionate, generous, and above all, morally courageous. I lost my mom to cancer about a month ago. And my whole life, I've looked to fictional characters or out into the world for heroes to emulate when my biggest superhero was always right there by my side. Mom, I love you, and I wish I had told you that you were my superhero. To my fellow alumni, excuse me. To my fellow alumni, I leave you with a call to action. Be the superhero you wish to become. When you walk through the Dexter Gate on your way out, look at the inscription from Charles Eliot. Depart to better serve thy country and thy kind. Always lead with your heart. Take off your armor. Exercise empathy, especially towards people you disagree with. It is the only path by which we can coexist, leaving this fragile, beautiful spaceship we call Earth better than we found it. Thank you.
What makes this speech land so hard is that the speaker spends the entire time dismantling the exact image the audience expects him to brag about, and he does it on purpose. A son of immigrants who became a Navy SEAL, then a doctor, then an astronaut, has every reason to deliver a highlight reel. Instead, he opens with humility, joking that he is a procrastinator who only wrote the speech after watching a comedian, and pointing to a 90-something-year-old alumnus from the class of 1946 and saying that man should be the one at the podium. That single gesture sets the entire tone because it tells the room that the loudest resume is not the same thing as the most worthy voice. From there, he uses his 8-month mission on the International Space Station not to impress, but to make a point, describing how from 17,000 miles an hour he could see storms, oceans, auroras, and glowing cities, but never once a border. The overview effect, the famous shift astronauts feel when they realize the whole of humanity is riding one fragile planet, becomes his thesis, and he immediately pulls it back down to Earth by saying, "You do not need to leave the ground to feel the weight of our shared humanity." The emotional core of the speech is his redefinition of what a hero actually is, and he earns it by admitting the hardest thing a person in his position can admit. He confesses that as a boy, he wanted to be a superhero, specifically the self-reliant, incorruptible Batman who needs no one. And then he spends the rest of the speech proving why that fantasy is not just naive, but dangerous. The turning point is brutal and honest, when he tells the audience that on the battlefield, acting on imperfect information and trying to protect his unit, he made a decision that took a life and that he was wrong. He refuses every available off-ramp. He notes that an investigation cleared him and that he operated within the rules of engagement, and then he sets all of that aside to say plainly that he is not the victim of the tragedy, that he caused it, and that he will carry that weight for the rest of his life. In an age where public figures apologize without ever accepting blame, this kind of clean, unqualified ownership is almost shocking, and it is what gives the rest of his message its authority, because a man willing to say that about himself has clearly stopped performing. From that wound, he builds his 2 lessons, and they connect into a single argument about strength. The first lesson is that mistakes and tragedy can be the spark for new purpose, which is how a guilt-driven pivot into medicine became something larger than atonement. The second, and the heart of it, is that empathy and vulnerability are superpowers, and that true superpowers do not ask us to put armor on, but to take our armor off. He credits Harvard not for the medical degree or the prestige, but for the classmates and professors who sat with him in the dark and pulled him into the light through the very empathy he had once dismissed as weakness. He then ties his two scales together with real elegance, calling the overview effect from space the macro view of our shared physical existence, and empathy the micro view of that same truth, our shared emotional existence, and both of them roads to the same destination, which is human connection that builds bridges instead of walls. It reframes his entire life of extreme service as one long lesson that the strong are not the ones who need no one, but the ones brave enough to admit they do. His final movement takes that hard-won wisdom and turns it on the idea of loyalty itself, then lands it on something deeply personal. As a young SEAL, he says, brotherhood meant absolute, unconditional loyalty to people, and now he believes that demanding the unconditional from flawed human beings is an impossible burden, and that our unconditional allegiance belongs instead to ideals, to moral and ethical values, to truth, and to faith. He warns that no matter how far artificial intelligence advances, it will never replicate integrity, humility, and trust, the qualities he is still, by his own admission, trying to live out rather than claiming to have mastered. And then he reveals who his real superhero is, not Batman, not an astronaut, but his mother, a woman who met hardship in life and business and health with courage and faith and stayed generous in a world that was often unkind to her. The gut punch is that he tells the room he lost her to cancer about a month ago, that for his whole life he searched the world and comic books for heroes to copy while the greatest one stood right beside him, and that he never got to tell her so. He closes by pointing the alumni toward the Dexter Gate inscription about departing to better serve, and leaves them with a charge that ties every thread together to take off their armor, lead with the heart, extend empathy, especially to those they disagree with, and become the superhero they have been waiting for, so that this fragile, shared planet is left better than they found it.